Frank Morgan stared out the viewport of the Earth diplomatic vessel. The massive Galactic Council station hung against the backdrop of stars, its crystalline spires gleaming in the light of the nearby sun. After 3 years, he had come to hate the sight of it. "Ambassador, they're ready for us," said Linda Carter, his chief aide. Her voice held the same weariness he felt. Frank nodded and straightened his formal blue uniform. "Let's get this over with." The Earth delegation walked through the station's ornate hallways, passing aliens of various shapes and sizes. Some nodded respectfully. Most ignored them or whispered as they passed. Frank had learned to read alien body language. None of it was complimentary. The council chamber doors slid open. Inside, representatives of 27 spacefaring civilizations sat in rising tiers. The most prominent seats belonged to the Voxari, tall blue-skinned aliens with 4 arms. The Mentulans, insectoid beings who communicated through clicks and colored light patterns, and the Corellians, gelatinous entities contained in hovering mechanical suits. "The Earth delegation may approach," announced High Speaker Zorax, the Voxari representative. Frank walked forward, datapad in hand. Behind him, his team of 6 humans looked small compared to the alien delegations with their dozens of assistants and advisors. "We thank the Council for hearing Earth's petition for full membership status," Frank began, his voice steady despite his exhaustion. "As outlined in our proposal, Earth has met all published requirements for elevation from observer status to full membership." The Mentulan representative, Councillor Krisk, flashed a pattern of red and yellow lights. The translation came through Frank's earpiece. "The Council acknowledges Earth's technological advancement, but questions whether your species has the necessary maturity for full representation." Frank had expected this. It was the same excuse they'd used for the past year. "Earth has maintained peace with all Council races for 15 years. Our trade agreements have been honored to the letter. Our cultural exchange programs have been successful on 17 worlds. Yet your military capabilities continue to expand," noted the Corellian representative, its voice bubbling through its translator. "This suggests a lack of trust in Council protection." Frank felt his patience wearing thin. Last night, he had discovered files never meant for human eyes. His contact in the Pellerin delegation had slipped him access to classified Council discussions. What he found confirmed his worst suspicions. "Perhaps," Frank replied carefully, "Earth's defensive posture reflects our understanding of our position in galactic politics." Murmurs spread through the chamber. "Explain yourself, Ambassador Morgan," demanded Zorax. Frank tapped his datapad, sending files to the main display. "These are resource transfer records from Earth to Council worlds over the past decade. Earth provides raw materials at below market rates while receiving technology with artificial limitations. The pattern suggests deliberate constraint of human development." The chamber erupted in angry shouts and denials. Frank waited until Zorax restored order. "These allegations are baseless," Zorax declared. "The Council has always treated Earth fairly, considering your primitive origins." Frank pulled up another document, the one his Pellerin contact had risked everything to provide. "This is a Council security directive from 8 years ago. It classifies humans as a managed species to be contained through economic dependence and technological restriction." Silence fell across the chamber. Zorax's blue skin darkened with rage. "Where did you obtain this document?" he demanded. "That's not the relevant question," Frank replied. "The relevant question is whether it's authentic, and your reaction confirms it is." Frank closed his datapad and looked around the chamber. "For 3 years, I've petitioned this Council in good faith. I've endured delays, excuses, and humiliation. I believed in the promise of galactic cooperation." He gestured to his team, who stood. "Earth is done asking for a seat at your table. We're done talking." Frank turned his back on the Council, a deliberate insult, and walked toward the exit. Behind him, the chamber exploded into chaos. "You can't just leave," Zorax shouted. "There are protocols." Frank stopped at the doorway and looked back one last time. Watch us. The Earth delegation left the chamber, ignoring the uproar behind them. As they walked briskly toward their ship, Linda leaned close. "What now, sir?" Frank's expression was grim but determined. "Now we do what humans have always done when backed into a corner. We show them exactly what we're capable of." The council chamber erupted into chaos the moment the Earth delegation left. Alien representatives jumped from their seats, shouting and gesturing wildly. Some rushed to private communication terminals, while others huddled in small groups, whispering urgently. "Order. I demand order," shouted High Speaker Zorax, his 4 blue arms waving frantically. His voice was lost in the noise. Admiral Hexiva of the Corellian fleet pushed past junior representatives to reach the central platform. The reptilian officer's scales had turned pale with stress. "We must implement containment measures immediately," he hissed into Zorax's ear. "The humans cannot be allowed to act independently." Councillor Krisk of the Menchulan Confederation flashed urgent patterns of red and white light. The Council's translation system broadcast his message. "This is precisely the scenario our security forces warned about. Humans are unpredictable and dangerous when cornered." The Voxeri High Speaker finally managed to activate the chamber's sound-dampening field. Abrupt silence fell as all verbal communications were temporarily blocked. The shocked faces of the representatives turned toward him. "This council will not descend into panic," Zorax said, deactivating the field. "We have contained aggressive species before." From the shadows of the upper tier, a voice called out, "Have we? Have we truly faced anything like the humans?" The council members turned to see Councillor Breck, the military representative of the Menchulan Confederation. He rarely spoke at open sessions. "I have been authorized to share classified intelligence," Breck announced, moving to the central platform. His insectoid form clicked as he connected a data crystal to the main display. Images appeared above the council floor. Human warships engaging with a previously unknown alien fleet. The battle footage showed Earth vessels taking massive damage yet continuing to fight. "This is footage from the Kintari conflict," Breck explained. "Most of you believe it was a minor border skirmish that we helped resolve. The truth is different." The council watched in stunned silence as human ships, despite being outnumbered and outgunned, executed maneuvers that seemed to defy physics. When 3 Earth vessels were destroyed, the remaining ships didn't retreat, but instead accelerated directly toward the enemy. "The Kintari were a warrior species who refused to join the council," Breck continued. "We considered them a significant threat until they encountered a human colony. This battle lasted 6 hours. The humans lost 40% of their fleet but completely destroyed the Kintari force." The final images showed the aftermath. The human captain accepting the Kintari surrender. "The Kintari never recovered," Breck said quietly. "They requested council membership the following cycle, fearing another human encounter. We classified the true events to prevent panic." The Voxeri High Speaker's skin had darkened navy blue. Why wasn't the full council informed? "Because," Admiral Hexiva interjected, "if word spread about what humans are capable of, half the galaxy would seek alliance with Earth instead of us." From the back of the chamber, a smaller alien raised a tentacle. It was Zivtol of the Pelleran Republic, one of the newest council members. "Why are we assuming the humans are hostile?" Zivtol asked. "They simply left talks that were clearly unfair." Admiral Hexiva sneered. "Knave child. The humans now know we've been constraining them. Do you think they'll forgive that?" High Speaker Zorax tapped a sequence on his personal console. The doors to the chamber sealed with a heavy thud. "I am invoking emergency protocols," he announced. "I request temporary executive powers to address the human threat." Before anyone could object, a rasping voice echoed through the chamber. All heads turned toward the highest tier, where the oldest members sat. A hunched figure emerged from the shadows. "You fools," whispered Elder Xandros, his ancient voice carrying surprising power. "You absolute fools." The ancient Corellian rarely participated in council matters anymore. His gelatinous form had faded with age, nearly transparent in his hover chair. Elder Xandros, Zorax acknowledged with forced respect. The Council welcomes your wisdom in this crisis. The ancient alien's laugh was like grinding stones. Crisis? You haven't seen Crisis yet. He gestured to the battle footage still frozen on the display. That wasn't humans fighting at full capacity. That was humans fighting with one hand tied behind their backs. A nervous murmur rippled through the chamber. I was there, Xandros continued, when we first discovered Earth. I voted against contact. I voted for quarantine. Not because they were primitive, but because I recognized what they were. He moved his hover chair forward, his ancient eyes sweeping the council. They don't know what they've done by letting the humans leave, he whispered. When humans stop talking, that's when you should truly begin to worry. Frank Morgan stood before the large wooden table in the White House Situation Room. President Olivia Daniels sat at the head, surrounded by military officers and government officials. The room was quiet as Frank finished his report on the council walkout. So after 3 years, you decided to end negotiations, President Daniels said. She was a tall woman with short gray hair and eyes that missed nothing. Was that the plan we agreed on, Ambassador Morgan? Frank met her gaze. No, Madam President. The plan was to continue diplomatic efforts. But when I confirmed they classified us as a managed species, I made a judgment call. The President nodded slowly. I'm not criticizing. I'm wondering what took you so long. A small smile crossed her face. The Council has 48 hours to panic before we announce our next steps. Let's make the most of it. She turned to a woman in a Navy uniform. Captain Wright, what's the status of our defense fleet? Captain Ellie Wright stood, her posture perfect. All ships are at readiness level 2, Madam President. The Mars and Europa defense grids are fully operational. We can be at full combat readiness within 6 hours. Make it so, the President ordered. She looked at a man in a business suit. Mr. Porter, is it time for the deterrent protocol? Chief Engineer Alan Porter cleared his throat. Yes, Madam President. We've kept our most advanced tech hidden from the Council for years. They think our ships use standard gravity manipulation engines. They have no idea about the fusion pulse technology or the shield advancements. Porter tapped on his tablet, and a hologram appeared above the table. It showed designs for ships and weapons unlike anything Earth had revealed to the Council. How long to deploy? Asked the President. We can have the first wave of advanced ships ready in 72 hours, Porter replied. The orbital defense platforms can be upgraded with the new weapon systems starting immediately. The President nodded and turned to a woman in a lab coat. Dr. Jameson, you had something to report. Kate Jameson stood nervously. Unlike the others, she wasn't used to high-level meetings. Yes, Madam President. My team has been analyzing alien FTL technology. We've discovered something interesting. She brought up her own hologram, showing complex equations. All Council species use the same basic approach to faster-than-light travel. They create a bubble of altered space-time and ride the wave. She highlighted a section of the equation. But there's a fundamental flaw in their method. They can't exceed certain speeds without causing dangerous radiation buildup. And how does this help us? Asked the President. Kate smiled. Our approach is different. When we developed FTL travel 10 years ago, we couldn't make their method work, so we created our own. Our ships don't have the radiation problem. We can travel 3 times faster than what they believe is physically possible. Murmurs spread around the table. The President turned to a general. General Scott, what about our off-world colonies? General Peter Scott nodded. Mars colony reports all systems green. The underground facilities on Europa and Titan have been activated. If needed, we can evacuate key personnel to the bunker networks. All colonies are increasing production of essential supplies. The President stood, and everyone followed. We knew this day might come. For 15 years, we've prepared while pretending to be less advanced than we are. The Council thinks we left because we're angry. They don't realize we left because we don't need them anymore. She walked to the window overlooking Washington, D.C. I want hourly updates on Council movements. If they send ships toward Earth, we don't fire first, but we make it clear we can defend ourselves. Frank Morgan moved to stand beside her. Madam President, my sources indicate several smaller Council species might approach us for alliance talks. The Pelorans in particular. Good, she replied. We'll welcome allies, but never again from a position of weakness. She turned back to the room. Humanity stood alone before we met the Council. If necessary, we can do so again. As the meeting ended, Captain Wright approached Frank. Was it worth it? She asked quietly, walking away from the Council after all this time. Frank watched as the room emptied, officials hurrying to carry out their orders. Earth's hidden potential was about to be unleashed. They never respected us, he said. Perhaps now they'll fear us. And after fear might come something better, actual respect. 3 days after Earth left the Council, alarms sounded throughout Earth's defense network. A fleet of alien ships had appeared at the edge of the solar system. Captain Sean Martinez stood on the bridge of the EDF Defiant, Earth's largest warship. The main screen showed 30 Council vessels approaching in perfect formation. They're not wasting time, said his first officer, Jane Wells. Their ships outnumber ours 3-1. Sean nodded. But they don't outclass us. Not anymore. He turned to his communications officer. Open a channel to the lid ship. The face of Admiral HFY appeared on screen. The reptilian alien looked surprised to see a human ship already waiting. This is Captain Sean Martinez of the Earth Defense Force. You have entered Earth-controlled space without permission. State your purpose. Admiral HFY's scales rippled with what Sean recognized as amusement. We are a peacekeeping fleet sent by the Galactic Council to ensure stability in this sector following your hasty departure from talks. Peacekeeping usually doesn't require battleships, Sean replied calmly. We request you maintain your position beyond Neptune's orbit while we discuss your visit with Earth's government. The alien admiral's expression hardened. We will proceed to Earth to meet with your leaders directly. Move aside, Captain. Sean didn't move. That won't be happening, Admiral. Maintain your position, or we will consider your approach hostile. Laughter came through the communication channel. You have 3 ships against our 30. What exactly do you think you can do? Sean nodded to his tactical officer. Show them. All around Earth's orbit, hundreds of defense platforms suddenly became visible as their cloaking fields dropped. At the same time, a dozen more Earth ships appeared from behind Mars and the Moon, where they had been hiding. What is this? Demanded Admiral HFY, his confidence visibly shaken. This is what we chose not to show the Council, Sean replied. We have more than 3 ships, Admiral. We have a fully operational defense force that has been preparing for this day for years. The alien fleet stopped advancing. You hid all this from Council inspectors, HFY said. This violates agreements. Agreements that the Council never honored, Sean interrupted. We played by your rules until we decided not to. Now we play by ours. Sean nodded to Lieutenant Greg Pearson at the navigation console. Lieutenant, execute the boulder drop. Greg smiled as his fingers flew across the controls. Far above the plane of the solar system, a large asteroid that Earth had quietly moved into position years ago began to move. Its trajectory brought it hurtling down past the alien fleet, missing the command ship by less than a kilometer before continuing into deep space. That was a warning, Sean said to the stunned admiral. We could have directed that asteroid to hit your ship. We chose not to. The bridge was silent as the alien commander stared in shock. That maneuver is impossible without causing orbital decay, HFY finally said. The gravitational calculations alone would take days. For your computers, perhaps, Sean replied. Lieutenant Pearson calculated it in his head in under a minute. Humans are good at math when motivated. The alien admiral's scales had gone completely pale. You've been holding back. Yes, Sean agreed. We have. The council thought they were dealing with an upstart species barely worth notice. You were wrong. Scene leaned forward. You have 1 hour to turn your fleet around and leave our system. After that, we cannot guarantee your safety. This is a mistake, HFY warned. The council will not forget this. Good, Scene replied. Because neither will we. The communication ended. Scene turned to his crew, who watched him with pride and nervousness. Will they leave? Jane asked quietly. Scene shrugged. If they're smart, yes. If not, he looked at the tactical display showing Earth's true military strength. Then they'll learn why species that tried to conquer Earth in the past aren't around anymore. An hour later, the Council fleet turned and began the journey back to galactic space. As they retreated, Admiral HFY sent one final message to Earth's Defense Force. They'd been holding back. All this time, they've been holding back. News of the Council fleet's retreat spread quickly across the galaxy. Every trading post, space station, and alien world buzzed with the same story. Humans had stood up to the Council and won. In a quiet meeting room on Earth's lunar base, Ambassador Ryan Johnson sat across from Zivtal, the Pelleran representative who had questioned the Council's fear of humans. My government sends its respect, Zivtal said, his tentacles moving gracefully as he spoke. The Pelleran Republic wishes to establish direct relations with Earth, separate from Council oversight. Ryan smiled. Earth welcomes your friendship, Representative Zivtal. We've always believed the Pellerans were different from the older Council races. Many species have watched how the Council treated Earth, Zivtal admitted. Not all of us agreed with their methods. Some of us see humans as the change the galaxy needs. As they continued their discussion, similar meetings were happening across the solar system. Alien traders who once avoided Earth now rushed to maintain their business connections. Species that had been neutral suddenly discovered reasons to visit human colonies. On Mars Colony, Vice Admiral Lisa Cooper established a new military liaison office. The line of alien representatives waiting to speak with her stretched around the building. Another request for protection, said her assistant, handing her a data tablet. The Trevari mining colonies fear Council retaliation for continuing trade with Earth. Lisa sighed, adding it to her growing stack. Tell them we'll consider their situation, but make it clear, we're not looking to start a war. We just won't accept being treated as lesser beings anymore. Meanwhile, in the heart of Council space, the Voxeri attempted to organize an economic blockade against Earth. Their plan collapsed within days when human merchant ships simply used routes the Council didn't know existed. Frank Morgan, now back on Earth, reviewed intelligence reports with Director Paul Harrison of Earth's Counterintelligence Division. The Council is splitting into factions, Paul explained, displaying a holographic map showing political alignments shifting across the galaxy. The older species want to force us back into the fold. The younger ones are reconsidering their own positions. Frank nodded. And the secret channels we established with disgruntled Council members. Paying off better than we hoped, Paul replied. We've received technology schematics, patrol routes, even access codes to restricted areas. Turns out we weren't the only ones tired of the big three species running everything. Frank walked to the window, looking out at the busy streets of New York. People went about their daily lives, most unaware of how the galaxy was reshaping around them. Has the Council tried to contact us officially? He asked. 3 times, Paul confirmed. President Daniels has delayed responding. She wants them to sweat a little longer. Frank smiled. Good. On the edge of Earth's solar system, a small Council science vessel carefully approached. Unlike the military fleet, this ship came alone, moving slowly to show it meant no harm. Captain Diane Russell of the EDF Guardian watched it on her sensors. They're requesting permission to deliver a message, her communications officer reported. Scan them for weapons, Diane ordered. When the scan came back negative, she nodded. Allow them to transmit, but keep our shields up. The face of a Mentulan appeared on screen, flashing patterns of blue and green, colors that indicated respect in their culture. "I bring a message from Counselor Breck of the Menchulan Confederation," the alien said. "We wish to open separate diplomatic channels with Earth, independent of Council authority." Diane raised an eyebrow. The Menchulans were among the strongest voices against us in the Council. "Perspectives have changed," the messenger replied simply. "Recent events have caused many to reevaluate humans' place in the galactic community." As Diane relayed this information to Earth Command, similar messages arrived from other species. The Corellian Trade Guild requested renewed shipping agreements. Even some Voxuri colonies sought quiet connections away from their homeworld's policies. President Daniels called an emergency meeting with her advisors. "It seems," she said, looking around the table, "that walking away from the Council was the best diplomatic move we ever made." General Nickelbaker nodded. "They thought we needed them more than they needed us. They were wrong." The president smiled. "Then let's show the galaxy what Earth can offer when we're treated as equals. Not as a threat, not as a resource to exploit, but as partners." Not everyone in the Galactic Council was ready to accept Earth's new position. In a secret chamber deep within the Council station, High Speaker Zorax met with the heads of special operations from several elder species. "This situation with Earth cannot continue," Zorax said, his blue skin dark with anger. "They threaten everything we have built over thousands of years." Admiral Hexiva nodded. "My fleet's retreat was tactical, not final. We have other ways to deal with upstart species." The plan they created was simple but dangerous. A team of elite operatives would infiltrate Earth's defense network and plant devices to disable their shields and weapons. Once Earth was vulnerable, the combined Council fleet would arrive to force their surrender. 3 days later, a small unmarked ship approached Earth using stealth technology. Inside were 12 of the best Council agents, each chosen for their skills in sabotage and infiltration. They never reached their target. The unmarked ship suddenly found itself surrounded by 4 Earth vessels that appeared from nowhere. Before they could react, their engines were disabled by precisely targeted energy pulses. Director Paul Harrison watched from Earth's counterintelligence headquarters as the capture unfolded on the main screen. "How did we know they were coming?" asked his assistant. Paul smiled. "We've had monitoring devices planted throughout Council space for years. They think their plans were secret. Nothing is secret from Earth anymore." The captured agents were brought to a secure facility beneath the Rocky Mountains. Paul personally supervised their interrogation. What he learned disturbed him greatly. "The Council is far more desperate than we thought," he told President Daniels in an emergency briefing. "They were planning to sabotage not just our military systems, but our civilian infrastructure as well. Hospitals, power plants, water purification. They wanted to create panic among our population." The president's face hardened. "So this wasn't just about forcing us back to the negotiating table. This was about making an example of us." "Yes," Paul confirmed. "They fear what will happen if other species follow our lead and break away from Council control." As they discussed options, a message arrived from an unexpected source. The Menchulan Confederation, one of the 3 most powerful Council members, requested direct peace talks with Earth. "This is interesting timing," Frank Morgan said when he heard the news. "Why would they reach out now, just after their failed operation?" The answer came from one of the captured agents, who finally broke under questioning. "The Menchulans weren't part of the sabotage plan," he revealed. "They opposed it but were outvoted by the Voxuri and Corellians. They're breaking ranks." President Daniels decided to accept the Menchulan offer. 2 days later, Counselor Breck arrived on Earth, the first high-ranking Council member ever to visit the human homeworld. "My government wishes to apologize for our role in the unfair treatment of humans," Breck said, his insectoid form making clicking sounds as he spoke. "The Menchulan Confederation seeks separate peace with Earth. We offer reparations for past wrongs." Frank Morgan, present at the meeting, watched the alien carefully. "Why now?" he asked directly. "What changed?" Breck's light patterns shifted to a solemn blue. "We analyzed your technological capabilities since your demonstration against our fleet. You're advancing faster than any species we've encountered. The Voxeri and Corellians want to crush you before you grow stronger. We Mentulans believe that would be both wrong and impossible. So this is based on fear, not respect, General Nickel Baker remarked coldly. It began as fear, Breck admitted, but it has become respect. When Captain Martinez could have destroyed our ships but chose restraint, that was the act of a civilization we wish to know better, not fight. As the meeting continued, reports came in from across Council space. Other species were openly questioning the elder race's leadership. Some were calling for reforms to the entire Council system. They're blaming each other for mishandling humans, Frank told the president after the Mentulan left. Their 1,000-year power structure is cracking, and they know it. President Daniels looked thoughtful. Then perhaps it's time to show them what human ingenuity can really do. General Baker, is the new defense technology ready for demonstration? General Baker smiled. Yes, Madam President. The non-lethal neutralization system is operational. We can disable an attacking ship without harming its crew. Perfect, the president said. Let's make sure the entire galaxy sees that humans can defend themselves without resorting to the brutality the Council expected from us. 1 month after Earth walked away from the Council, humanity was ready to take its next major step. In a ceremony broadcast across human colonies and to friendly alien worlds, President Daniels announced the formation of the Soul Accord. For too long, the galaxy has been ruled by a small group of elder species who put their interests first, she said, standing before representatives from 12 non-council alien races. Today, we create a new alliance based on equality, mutual respect, and shared progress. The Pelorans were the first to sign, followed by the Mentulans, who had formally broken with the Council 3 days earlier. Several smaller species that had suffered under Council rules eagerly joined the new alliance. After the ceremony, Major Ben Wallace met with military leaders from the new allied species. The human officer had been chosen to lead the first Joint Defense Force. My ship leaves tomorrow for the Rigel system, he told his alien colleagues. We've received reports that the Council is pressuring the colonies there to cut ties with Earth. Anyone who wishes to join this mission is welcome. To his surprise, every alien commander volunteered. One Peloran officer explained why. For centuries, the Council told us how to build our ships, when we could use them, and where we could go. Humans are the first to offer us true partnership. Meanwhile, in a secure laboratory beneath the Pacific Ocean, Dr. Jason Hayes and his team were about to test a technology the Council had declared impossible. Faster-than-light communications. All Council species use courier ships to carry messages between stars, Jason explained to the visiting alien scientists. They've tried to develop instant communication for centuries but failed. The alien observers watched as Jason activated his device. On a screen, they could see a similar setup on Mars. When Jason spoke, his words reached Mars without any delay, something that should have been physically impossible according to Council science. How? Asked a stunned Mentulan scientist. Our best minds concluded this violated fundamental laws of physics. Jason smiled. We approached the problem differently. Your people tried to send signals through space. We found a way to temporarily fold space itself. As word of this breakthrough spread, more Council military officers began defecting to the Human Alliance. They'd brought ships, weapons, and critical intelligence about Council weaknesses. Frank Morgan was reviewing these defection reports when Captain Diane Russell contacted him with urgent news. Sir, we've received a distress call from Proxima Centauri, she said, her face grim on the screen. The Council has sent ships to blockade the human colony there. Casualties? Frank asked sharply. None yet, Diane replied. But they're preventing supply ships from reaching the colony. They're trying to starve our people into submission. President Daniels immediately authorized a humanitarian mission. Captain Russell's ship, loaded with supplies and escorted by Allied vessels, departed for Proxima Centauri at top speed. What they found there shocked even the most hardened officers. The Council blockade wasn't just preventing human ships from reaching the colony. They were stopping all traffic, including medical transports for other species living in the system. They're punishing everyone who associates with us, Captain Russell reported back to Earth. There are Pellerin children here who need specialized medicine that isn't getting through. Using Earth's new defense technology, Captain Russell's ships neutralized the Council blockade without firing a single destructive shot. Their weapons temporarily disabled the Council vessels without harming their crews. As camera drones recorded everything, human medics rushed to treat sick aliens who had been denied care by the Council blockade. The footage was broadcast across the galaxy using Earth's new FTL communication system. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Species that had remained neutral now openly condemned the Council's actions. Even on the Council homeworlds, protests began as ordinary citizens questioned their leaders' decisions. In a private communication to President Daniels, Elder Xandros, who had warned the Council about humans, sent a surprising message. You have done what no species has accomplished in 10,000 years. You have shown the galaxy that the Council is not invincible, not infallible, and perhaps not necessary. The President shared this message with Frank Morgan as they looked at a galactic map showing the rapidly expanding influence of the Sol Accord. We never wanted to replace the Council, Frank said quietly. We just wanted to be treated as equals. Sometimes, the President replied, to be recognized as an equal, you first have to prove you're better. 3 months after Earth walked away from the negotiating table, the Galactic Council sent a formal request for humans to return to talks. The message arrived at Earth's diplomatic headquarters in Geneva, where Frank Morgan read it with a small smile on his face. They're using different words this time, he told President Daniels during their secure call. No demands, no conditions, just a request for dialogue. The President nodded. And the intelligence reports. Our sources confirm the Council is in chaos, Frank replied. The Voxeri High Speaker has been removed from power. Several minor species have formally left the Council to join our alliance. The balance of power has shifted dramatically. After careful consideration, Earth agreed to send representatives back to the Council station. This time, however, things would be very different. When Frank Morgan returned to the chamber where he had walked out 3 months before, he wasn't alone. Representatives from the Pellerin Republic, the Menchulan Confederation, and 5 other allied species walked with him. The Earth delegation no longer wore the simple blue uniforms of petitioners, but the formal black and gold of equals. High Speaker Trilden, newly appointed after Zorax's removal, greeted them with formal respect. The massive chamber had been rearranged. The rising tiers that once placed Earth's representatives at the bottom had been replaced by a circular arrangement where all seats were on the same level. Earth and its allies are welcome to this historic session, Trilden announced. We gather to discuss a new structure for galactic governance. Frank stepped forward. Before these talks begin, Earth has conditions that are non-negotiable. First, all species must have equal representation. Second, no technology or resource restrictions may be imposed on developing worlds. Third, a charter of rights that protects all sentient beings must be adopted. In the past, such demands would have been met with outrage. Now, the chamber was quiet as the council members considered Earth's terms. Elder Xandros, one of the few original council members who remained, spoke from his hover chair. For 10,000 years, we believed our way was best. We thought younger species needed guidance and control. His ancient eyes focused on Frank. Humans have proven us wrong. I support Earth's conditions. Over the next week, the framework for a new galactic alliance took shape. The old council would be dissolved. In its place would rise a new organization where all species had an equal vote. Technology would be shared, not controlled. Trade would be fair, not exploitative. On Earth, preparations were already underway for a new center of galactic cooperation. The Galactic Academy on Luna would become a place where all species could share knowledge and culture. President Daniels visited the construction site, watching as human and alien workers built the massive complex together. Did you ever imagine this outcome when you walked out of the council? She asked Frank, who stood beside her looking at the partially built academy. Not exactly, he admitted. I just knew we couldn't continue being treated as less than we are. Their conversation was interrupted by Dr. Jason Hayes, who approached with an alien scientist. Madam President, we've had a breakthrough, Jason said excitedly. By combining our approach to space folding with Corellian energy field theories, we've developed a way to travel between galaxies, not just stars, entire galaxies. The alien scientist nodded enthusiastically. What would have taken either of our species centuries to develop took us weeks when working together. As the implications of this discovery sank in, Frank looked up at the Earth hanging in the black sky above Luna's surface. For most of human history, people had looked up at the moon from Earth. Now they stood on the moon, looking back at their homeworld while planning journeys to other galaxies. 2 weeks later, Frank Morgan stood once more in the new council chamber, with representatives from 73 species watching. The new charter was signed. The Galactic Alliance was born. After the ceremony, Frank met privately with Elder Xandros. You know what truly set humans apart? The ancient alien asked. Our technology. Our military. Frank guessed. Xandros shook his head slowly. Your willingness to walk away. Most species would have accepted a lesser position for the benefits of council membership. You chose independence over subordination. That choice changed the galaxy. As Frank prepared to return to Earth, he reflected on the journey that had brought humanity to this moment. They had entered the galactic community as newcomers, been treated as inferiors, and now helped remake the very structure that had once dismissed them. They never understood, he told President Daniels upon his return, that our greatest strength wasn't our weapons. It was that we were always prepared to walk away and succeed on our own.